Welcome to another episode of Me, My Wife, and Sports. I'm your host, Fitz, with my lovely co-host, Darcy.
Hello.
All right.
I'm here.
I think she's sulking about her fantasy pick'ems, but...
Why would I be sulking and I'm in third place?
Because you want to be in first.
And everybody, what place are you in?
13th.
Okay.
But it's early. We still got, 15 more games. All right. Again, as always, a lot is going on in sports. And the topic that we're going to discuss today is the pros and cons of youth participating in organized sports. Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? Does it really help children throughout their life as they become adults? Or is it just a waste of time? All right. Opinions, Darcy.
I don't know. I think a lot of things are affecting the children today, but this is like with anything. So yeah, there is a good to it in that it gets kids up and moving and involved with other children and learning how to take direction.
Right.
And correction and deal with authority and all kinds of things like that. They say it promotes improved academic performance, and we know it's healthier because they're out and they're moving. But on the flip side, the cons are that just like with all other sports, it creates a lot of stress for kids. And if they're out there participating too early, then they run the risk of suffering traumatic injuries to their body, and their bodies are still developing. So that's not good. And it could do a lot of harm that way. Their bones are weaker and their ligaments and tendons are not as strong. And so they have an increased risk for injury.
Right. But also too, fortunate enough that young kids are more flexible and can withstand a little bit more than, as you get older, bones get a little bit more brittle and so forth. But I think when making a decision on putting your child in organized sports as a youth, that it should be a joint decision.
Right.
Because the last thing you want to do is force it upon the child. Try to convince the child to give it a try. And if they don't like it, after they finish the season or the participation, let them move on to something else.
Right. It should definitely be something that the kids want to do, not trying to relive the parents' dreams and hopes of what may have been, but absolutely.
Right. But some of the things that you mentioned, which I totally agree with the far as the pros with the physical fitness and also the cognitive fitness, giving kids confidence in some cases. And also I don't care what age you start a child off in organized sports, you got to keep in mind the mental aspect of it, because that's a lot, the pressure of winning. I don't care at what age you're at. Unfortunately, a lot of kids, depending on the age and the sport, they'll go out there and just have a good time and not follow the rules, how they should be and all that, because they're learning and so forth. And then you get either a coach or a parent or a spectator that gets all upset or in their feelings because all they see is the W's and the L's. So
another con is that it puts a financial burden on families.
Oh, it does. It does. And
youth sports, because they're organized, but I guess they're not sponsored. They're not sponsored, or they're not.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I think more and more, a lot of youth sports are going that way.
To becoming sponsored.
Getting sponsors and other things
because
to help.
That's why Juanita, my other sister, is always begging for money, and she should be
Right.
listening. And if she's listening, she can call and fuss at me for saying that, but she should be listening. If not, she'll never know. But
And that's just cheerleading.
and she just does cheerleading, which is an organized youth sport.
Correct.
And I'm sure, she has had boys and girls that participated,
Right.
but they're selling popcorn, they're selling raffle tickets because
For the
sometimes
travel.
the parents can't
Right.
pay. Like if they do well, then they go off to these competitions. And I think everything Pop Warner related is in Florida, the competitions and everything.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
at the end of the season, now she's got this group that she's got to take to travel for
Right.
either their own cheerleading competitions, because sometimes they do that. But then I guess if they're going to support the team that they cheering for.
Right.
But she's always doing those fundraisers and selling money because that's how they get to go to those places.
Now
If they don't do it that way.
Does she get paid anything for coaching?
I don't think she got paid when she was working
Oh, okay.
with the Pop Warner style. I'm saying that, but I don't know
Right.
what the name of her particular group was.
Right.
But that's an all volunteer sport,
And that's the
all volunteer
activity.
The coaching, the adult part of youth sports is normally volunteer, and that's another con in that sometimes your coaches might not be
Well, it goes,
not have the experience or be trained in what they're coaching.
or even the time, because time is a big factor, because a lot of these coaches either have jobs, meaning the coaching piece is secondary to their main source of income. Because I know even in high school, when I was assisting in the coaching arena for the varsity and JV as well as freshman team, main coach, head coach was part of that particular school, but all the assistants, we all had jobs, and we would give our time after work or on the weekends to help support the teams and assist the coach. So cost and time are big, strong factors when it comes to youth sports, which is a con, in my opinion, as well.
Right? Yep, absolutely.
And you think about it, sports has, especially with the social media and television and all that, but sports has taken on a worldwide persona, and it's not so much that it's all U.S. youth kids. Now you're having youths from other country come over and compete. Perfect example, Little League World Series. You got kids from all over the world competing in that.
Yep. Yeah. The other part is that, it's like you said earlier. It's got to be something that the kids want to do, and not the parents thinking about, oh, if we can get a scholarship, this will pay for college, or it'll do this, or it'll pay for that. Now you're creating a situation where you're going to put a whole lot of pressure on your kids.
Exactly, especially if you're laying it out like that, saying you got to do this, do this. So when it comes to you're getting ready to go off to college, you've taken all the necessary steps to try to secure a scholarship, whereas that's a lot of pressure on a kid.
Right. It shouldn't be about that. It should, at this point, it should just be about getting out, getting some activity,
and
getting your kids socially involved, because a lot of these kids today
Yep.
don't have basic social skills
Right.
because of COVID and homeschooling and everything else that is just going to not fare well with them down the road. So let it be just what it is. Your Saturday is shot because you got to spend it watching your kids play whatever team sport they have chosen to play.
Right.
And the one that hopefully they enjoy. And you can be running all these things through your head and keeping them to yourself until they at least get to be a teenager, or at least survive the the ankle biter pee-wee leagues and
Right.
get big enough where they can actually say, yes, I like this, or no, I don't.
Right.
Or, yes, this is what I want to do.
Well, reports show that only 50.7% of kids aged 6 to 17 played sports or took a sports lesson of some sort in 2021.
Hmm.
But over the years, youth sports have increased as far as the activities because you didn't have as many in the past, but now, as it shows, you're up to 50% of kids competing now in youth sports.
Hmm.
And even some of these camps that kids go to now, like the Nike camps and some of the other ones, it's just ridiculous because I know a few you have to be invited to in order to participate. So
Yeah. So, and how does a kid get an invitation to a sports camp?
when they're playing,
They got to be good or something?
yeah, when I say youth, we're talking middle school as well as high school as well. And especially in high school, a lot of these coaches and follow, or I should say AAU teams, so forth, follow the key kids across the country, and they keep an eye out and they'll look out and send invitations to certain tournaments. And then you have college coaches there, and in some cases, even pro scouts are looking at kids at an early age.
I would just think that if you had a child that was interested in youth sports, you definitely, encourage, support, but educate. Like, watch the professional sport. If you got a son that wants to play football, be sure that on Sunday when he's watching football, you're watching football with him, so that unfortunately, when something like the incident with Tua,
Right.
sliding head first, which I don't know why he was doing that. But, if he's a football player, you want to tell your son you don't slide head first. And then you look at Tua and you go, and that's why.
Right.
And then that's a perfect setup to have a conversation about what are you going to do if you don't do football? Because school can't just be a means to
go to the next
ticket
level.
to the professional
Right.
Level of sports. And a lot of these kids, that's what they think. Like, oh, I'm going to go to college and I'm going to go to Alabama, but it ain't because Alabama got a good academic program. It's because they want to play on the team and hopefully get recruited. But what happens when you can't play football no more? And that's the conversation that these people aren't having.
Exactly.
Talk to these kids about the finances too. Like, okay, so even if you do get to be a millionaire, what you going to do with that money?
Right.
Be sure they ain't saying nothing crazy now. Because if they saying crazy stuff now, they're going to be saying crazy stuff when they get the money.
Exactly.
But, these are conversations, hopefully, that some parents are having with their kids and other parents aren't.
Exactly.
And when they get to the professional level, you can obviously tell whose parents was very involved on a positive level and whose parents weren't.
Right.
So,
unfortunately, a lot of these parents try to push their kids into sports hoping they become this great athlete.
And they going to get paid.
Exactly.
Right.
One of the things, we're in this electronic age, and a lot of young youth, I should say, they sit...
Youth?
Youth.
Okay.
Yeah, this says in
my cousin Vinny.
Youths. Did you say youths? But a lot of these kids sit in their room and play all these Xbox, PlayStation, and on the computers and all those things. Where back, I think there was a study done in 2019, and 17% of U.S. children were on the obesity line.
That's
And again, I blame it on a couple of things. Kids not being active, as well as the fast food that society has pushed along because it's quick and easy, because everybody's working or busy trying to make ends meet and or just doing other things and don't have that quality family time of a good wholesome meals. Now, I'm not saying all, but there's quite a few. So definitely got to keep that in mind as one of the positive things by having the child go out and participate. It doesn't even have to be organized. But if you can get your
Mm-hmm.
kid out there to play in the parks, get a few.
And get out there with them too, because it'd probably be good for you too.
Right.
For the adults to get out there and move and just be involved with your kids and open up, create an environment where you can have a dialogue,
right,
and have some of these discussions with your kids.
And like you said earlier too, with kids, a lot of kids being homeschooled, and with the pandemic, it was a lot of socialization that was lost, and you just need that socialization for your child amongst their peers to help build their self-esteem and self-confidence moving forward.
Right.
And I think overall that'll reduce their social anxiety and possible depressive symptoms and less suicidal tendencies, because unfortunately a lot of youth today are committing suicide either from being bullied or just having low self-esteem and not feeling their worth in society, especially when you have parents who are, and not blaming parents, because I know some parents have 2 or 3 jobs trying to make ends meet and just don't have the time, and they're trying to keep clothes on their child back and
food on the table.
Exactly.
Right.
So by having that outlet of kids participating in sports, it helps give them that socialization that they need.
And hopefully
and
they're moving away from this everybody wins, everybody get a trophy.
Yeah, I don't care for that. That's been
I
around for a minute.
I mean, I get the idea of it, but are you really teaching the kids the way of the world?
And I know
because in the world, everybody doesn't win.
And
somebody's going to lose.
And some people say, oh, they can do that at an early age. But say you do that from 6 to 10, and then you switch to, okay, you lost, and everybody don't get anything. That's going to be a big
shock. That kid is traumatized.
So why not start off? Because you got to remember, just like with any child, their formative years, they're getting all these habits that either they're going to keep or move toward, whether
their personalities are developing, and you're teaching them how to deal with society, and that's just not the way. Everybody doesn't win. I never understood that. It wasn't like that when we were kids, and I mean I get it, but I just don't think that that's helpful in the long run to the child.
Right.
But again, that if you are in that kind of environment, then with your kids and their sports, then that calls for a separate conversation with the parents, I think, to say, okay, yeah, you got a trophy, but, kind of like the conversation you had, like, okay, you can't be leading the team and lose and say, but I had a good game.
Right.
and you the captain and the head of the team.
And the reason Darcy is saying that is because, we've seen it.
Yeah.
We've seen it. So.
Right.
And you got to understand, like she said, that it's more to just winning and losing, but you do need to have that outline that, hey, there's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with losing. It should make you stronger. It should make you better. That should be the motivation that the kids have on their own to do better and be better if it's something that they want to do.
Yeah.
And you be sure that they understand what losing means. It doesn't mean you're a loser. It just means next time you got to try a little harder. You got to practice a little bit more. You got to study a little bit more. And you got to hone in on your craft if this is really what you want to do. And that's going to help, I would think, parents know if the child is really serious or not.
Right.
Or if this is just something that their best friend at school was doing, so they want to do it too.
Right. Because, we had our kids who wanted to play instruments, and then, this is work,
Exactly. Now, out there, you done bought a guitar, a tuba, a saxophone. You got all these expensive instruments in the basement in a corner, and nobody wants to use them because interest has worn off. And that's just not, I think that the majority of school age adults parents of school-age kids don't have that kind of disposable income. If you're not
Right.
showing me that you're serious about this, or if somebody hasn't told me, oh, your child will be good at such and such, that's what these parents are waiting on before they make any more investments financially.
Right.
So, but I think part of the impact is to help kids understand winning and losing and how
Right.
that applies not just to sports, but to life and across the board.
Right. The Canadian Center for Ethics in Sport did a study back in 2020 about youth and sports and the pros and cons. And one of the things that they brought to the forefront was safety, bullying, violence, and abuse was the top biggest issues for community level sports. I just thought that was very interesting, especially the bullying piece. And I know in sports it's a safety concern and the violence and even abuse. Because look back, what was it? The gymnastics.
Right, yeah.
You had
You can't just turn
physicians.
your child over to anybody.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. I think that's what parents are waiting for. Like, parents want to know, okay, they're serious. They got an opportunity to be good. Okay, now I'm going to pay attention. And I think you should be paying attention as they express interest all along to help the child figure out, guide it, if this is truly what they want to do.
Right. And also too, I know we're saying all these pros of participating in sports about the socialization and all that, and also that participating also could have a negative effect from a social isolation. Like, for example, if you're not the top athlete in your sport and you're one of the not so talented ones, some of the players could be cruel and I won't say bully you, but they can be a little offensive and mess with your self-esteem in that manner. But it's up to the coaches and parents and society in a whole to make sure that we encourage our youth during sporting activities, because you even have parents in events that's yelling and screaming and even fighting amongst themselves because some other child grabbed their kid or hurt their kid. And get it, folks, when you play in sports, I don't care what age you are at, there's going to be injuries, plain and simple, no matter what the sport is.
They got to do something to get these kids off of these computers and these devices and get them back outside, because if they don't, they're going to lose a lot of services and functions that are put on and supported by the community and state and local governments and counties if the kids aren't participating. Because a lot of things are saying that a lot of kids are losing interest in sports because they don't want to go outside.
Right.
I don't want to play outside. All my stuff is inside.
And some of these parents, when a child does not want to play sports, they're like, okay, because they're thinking of the cost.
They're thinking of the cost. They're thinking of the time. Okay, good. I ain't got to spend all my weekends running you around. I ain't got to pay all this money, But yeah, that might not be the way to approach it. Get your kid out of the house.
Because the typical parent for youth sports spends about $693 per year, depending on the sport.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those sports include like lacrosse, gymnastics, ice hockey, tennis, and skiing, which can spend in upwards of $12,000, having trainers, equipment, traveling, and so forth. And that's a big investment, though, for a child. So that's why you want to have that conversation.
So you better be bouncing around like Simone Biles and slinging from the lights and doing triple-double pikes, and then we'll sit down and talk about getting you a trainer.
Exactly.
Be outside flipping up and down the street, showing everybody.
Well, even some of the equipment, for example, some kids who don't even participate in sports want to wear $200 or $300 sneakers.
Right.
Yeah,
but I mean, that's get a job. And then you can wear it. That's my answer.
Well, 10-year-old.
Yeah, well, he ain't getting no $200 sneakers. I'm sorry, because he ain't got no job. That's just it.
And that's
Now, if he's
unfortunate.
one of them kids on TV, then yeah. But otherwise, no. If you ain't got your own check coming in, no, you can't have no $200 tennis shoes. You ain't Michael Jordan spread out
Right.
on the shoe, so no.
Either
Or buy him some kids and let him make his own emblem and pretend like they his shoes.
No, we were going to at least to be competitive. Because my thing is, if you bring in good grades and you're serious about your sports, then you can have the best equipment.
What was that? Do you remember Shaquem Shaken?
Yeah.
What did he say? He bought his brother some shoes. His brother wanted some tennis shoes at one time. And he said he had a name brand. His little brother wanted some kind of name brand tennis shoes, and they was like kids, and he went out and bought them like Nets or something like that. It was something crazy. He was crazy. We thinking about you, Shaquem. Shaken.
Right.
You know who you are.
Exactly. But just remember, have that conversation and be involved. Stay involved. Because as Darcy mentioned, everybody doesn't have your child's best interests at heart.
Oh, no. And every child is not going to be, Dak Prescott and Christian McCaffrey and Debo Samuels and Jason, what's his name? Kelsey. Everybody's not going to be that. Travis Kelsey. Everybody's not going to be that kid. But that's what they're seeing now.
Right.
Everybody's not going to be Patrick Mahomes. It ain't but one Patrick Mahomes, y'all.
Exactly.
And so you got to have your own identity. And that's another thing. Don't let these kids, they can have a role model, but don't let them become their role model.
Right.
Teach them the good things that their role model is doing and help them to develop their own personalities and their own identity, because that's what's happening. Everybody wants to be Patrick Mahomes, and then when it don't happen, now they don't know what to do because they never thought past football.
Right.
And their parents never thought past football.
Exactly.
And so everybody lost. So now he's sitting at home on the couch doing nothing.
Exactly.
Telling stories like Al Bundy of when he was in high school and he ran 4 touchdowns.
Referring to the old TV show, Me and My Wife.
Everybody know who Al Bundy is.
What was it called?
Married with Children.
Married with Children. That's what it is.
Yes.
Married with Children.
Married with Children.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's the statistics that are out there about the pros and cons of youth, but then there's just the back porch conversation of the pros and cons about youth sports as well. So we could have this conversation all day long, just going over different things, but it really all depends on the child, the parent, and the situation.
Right. And if you don't take away anything from the conversation we're having here, remember that you need to have a conversation up front before enrolling your child into a sport. Granted, sometimes you have to give them a little nudge, but everybody doesn't have to play basketball. Everybody doesn't have to play tennis. Hey, chess club.
Debate team.
Yeah. Get them involved in something that encompasses
yearbook staff.
Exactly. That encompass other students so they can have that socialization.
There are a lot of things that they can do outside of sports that teach them how to be on a team.
Right.
But I think what you said is most important, and the basic takeaway from this topic would be talk to your children.
Yes.
Don't assume you know anything. Don't assume that they're telling you everything.
Right.
But sit down and have a deliberate, pointed conversation about, okay, you've been playing this sport for a long time.
Right.
What are your plans? Exactly. And see what's going on in their head.
Exactly.
Because if they say, well, I want to be Patrick Mahomes, then you got a problem.
Yeah. And
you got to have a whole lot of conversations with that child, or I want to be, like I said, Dak or Tom Brady or any of the greats out there, but that's a example. That's not, you want to be who you are and be the best at what you're doing as you can be as an individual. And you want to have a plan B,
Yep.
just in case.
Definitely.
Because if Fitzpatrick, he's the one that went to Harvard, right? Ryan Fitzpatrick.
I'm not sure.
I think he did. I think he went to Ivy League school. So yeah, even though he played with a whole bunch of people, I guess when he got tired, he felt comfortable retiring because he had, a college degree
Exactly.
that he could fall back on. He didn't have to go back and get it.
Right. And, if you have opportunity to go play professional, make some money, fine. But don't forget that sport is going to eventually come to an end because you can't beat Father Time. And you're going to need something to fall back on. Even though you go make millions, you want to be able to handle and control and make sure you don't lose your millions.
Right.
So.
Every sport has a lifespan.
Right.
I mean, when you hear them talking about gymnasts at 27 being too old for the sport,
right,
that tells you something.
Exactly.
Same thing in tennis. It doesn't matter. Golf, all of them have a life expectancy.
Exactly. And just remember that there's more to life than the sport, and that you can use the sport as a means to ends. So.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Darcy, that ends this session. I would like to add that if people have any comments or questions or concern, they can call us or reach out to us. Our email, which is memywifeandsports@yahoo.com, and leave any comments. And if they want to call, they can call at 301-818-2306 and leave us a voicemail, and we will respond. But
say that number one more time. You said that very fast. Yes.
301-818-2306. And that's the number to leave a message, comment, or any concerns, and we will respond as soon as possible. But we thank you guys for listening and hope you continue to listen. Any final thoughts?
Nope. Just take care of your kids. Talk to your kids. That's like the best thing that I can tell you. Have a conversation. Please stay in touch. And remember, your mate is a reflection of you.